This is a video summarising my thoughts on the Kawai Novus NV5S digital hybrid piano. The NV5S is a hybrid upright digital piano that was released in 2021. It utilises the Millennium 3 hybrid piano action. It's the same Millennium 3 action that's used in some of Kawai's acoustic upright pianos. Our family ordered the NV5S in October of 2021. Due to the COVID pandemic and backlogs with regards to shipping, we received the piano finally at the end of January in 2022. So why did we purchase this particular piano? Well, we purchased it for our son James, who is now 10 years old. He's been playing the piano for around about 2.5 years. Initially, he made extremely fast progress, and we've basically been trying to keep up with him in terms of giving him the piano that he needs to continue his studies. We were advised by James's current teacher that the type of piano he requires should be an acoustic piano, or as close to as possible. Now, this is a problem in our house because, as you should be able to see from the video I'm showing you, our house is particularly small and we really don't have space for a full-size upright or grand acoustic piano. Therefore, the best that we could manage in terms of being able to fit something in our house was a hybrid, which would mean either the Kawai Novus NV5S or the Yamaha Avant-Grande NU1X. These two pianos adopt the same working philosophy, although the Yamaha NU1X is somewhat older than the Kawai Novus NV5S. Unfortunately, we were not able to try out either of the two pianos in order to compare them. This was due to the COVID pandemic again, and due to the fact that with large backlogs, none of the piano stores locally stocked either of the two pianos. We therefore based our purchasing decision purely on reviews online, mainly on YouTube, and also people's thoughts on forums such as the Piano World forum. The main selling point of the Novus NV5S is obviously the piano's action. So where a digital piano utilises a simulated action, the NV5S has an acoustic upright action. And what this is supposed to mean for the player is that the player has a closer connection with the instrument, closer to that they would experience with an actual piano. And for the Novus NV5S, that certainly rings true. The action does feel very realistic. There is also an additional level of realism in that the sustain pedal is actually connected to a damper mechanism, which means that when you press the pedal, it feels pretty much exactly like it would with an acoustic instrument. Furthermore, the NV5S has an actual soundboard attached to the back, just like an upright piano. This means that as you play the piano, the sound not only comes from a series of speakers at various ends of the piano, but also resonates through the soundboard. The resulting sound is entirely digital, aside from the fact that you also can hear the sound of the action itself and the sound of the damper mechanism. The result is that both complement the digital piano sample, and what your ears pick up is therefore a combination of digital and acoustic elements. Overall, to my ear, this is very much superior in sound to that of my son's previous piano, which was a digital Yamaha P515. Now, the P515 sounded very, very good, particularly in combination with the subwoofer, but this is definitely a step up. The NV5S utilises the same SKEX rendered samples as is found on Kawai's top-of-the-range digital piano, the CA99. Indeed, it packs all features you would expect from a premium digital piano, especially including Bluetooth audio and Bluetooth MIDI. The piano is operated via a full software graphical user interface. There is a screen located on the left-hand side of the device next to the keys. The graphical user interface is fairly intuitive and fairly responsive. Certainly we have no problems in that regard. It's not as snappy as you would expect from a modern smartphone, but then again, it does exactly what it needs to do and serves the purpose required. It appears to be based on a stripped down Android operating system. As you can see, the startup time is fairly consistent with that of a budget smartphone. It takes a while to start up. However, that isn't too much of a problem because the operating system prioritizes one particular piano sample and you are able to play the piano using that single sample up until the user interface is fully loaded. I would mention that one of the drawbacks of the current method used is that the screen is always highly visible. So that to some extent shatters the illusion of having an acoustic instrument. You'll always see in the left-hand corner next to the keys quite a bright LCD screen. And this screen never switches off. And this is something I wish Kawai would improve in a future software update. I think it would be a good idea if once the instrument is selected, the screen turned itself off after a minute or so, and that the screen could then be reactivated, woken up again, by a simple finger press on the screen. As for the sound, well, although it is definitely an improvement over the digital Yamaha P515, it still doesn't sound quite as good as an actual acoustic piano. You will recognise from the sound digital qualities. To my ears, non-SKEX samples sound audibly less impressive than the SKEX. One thing that my ears pick up, and I don't know whether this is just my ears or the environment in which the piano is placed, or whether it's the piano itself, but I tend to pick up one particular high frequency ringing, and it's really odd to describe, but basically it doesn't sound like piano resonance in that the frequency that I'm hearing is always the same. Now, this may not be a fault. It may simply be a characteristic of the sample combined with my ears and various other circumstances. In fact, when non-piano samples are played, my ears pick up nothing of the sort. So I think most likely this is just a combination of that particular sample set and sensitivity that my ears have to that particular frequency. However, I must specify that I do not hear that with an acoustic piano. I should mention that on receipt of our new piano, we experienced a number of issues. The first issue concerned the piano pedals. What happened was that the felt between the pedals and the piano frame quickly came off the piano frame and disappeared inside of the piano. As a result, there was no felt between the pedals and the piano frame, and therefore when my son played, we were hearing a loud thumping noise from the piano. The problem was caused by fairly low quality felt combined with quite a small amount of insufficient adhesive applied to the felt itself. So after a period of time with the pedal pressing against the felt was moving against the frame and gradually moving inside of the frame. 3 weeks after purchase, a technician did come over. They were sent by Kawai, and they basically applied stronger adhesive to all three bits of felt that had disappeared inside the piano frame. This held okay for approximately 6 weeks, after which the sustain pedal suffered the same problem. The felt came off and disappeared inside the piano frame. Since then, just this past week, we had Tom, a representative of Kawai, Milton Keynes, come over to try to fix this properly. He rescued the same felt for the sustain pedal that we were using before, but used far more glue and also clamped the felt to the piano frame for approximately half an hour in the hope that that would permanently resolve the problem. So this is obviously something we will need to keep an eye on going forwards. One thing I would mention is that with the amount of glue now used on the felt, the sustain pedal does look significantly different to the other two. The glue is visible, which doesn't make it particularly appealing to the eye. We should also note that on arrival, our piano had one small but visible scratch to the lid of the keyboard. This isn't necessarily a problem. Obviously it doesn't affect how the piano plays, and over time anyway the piano will develop lots of small kind of scratches and scuffs on the paintwork, so it's not really a big deal. However, to be honest, the piano probably should not have arrived with that scratch. Finally, the piano also arrived with a very stiff, slow action. This basically meant that it was difficult for my son to play without certain key presses not registering, and just made it more difficult to play in general. This has been fully resolved so far by Tom from Kawai. On his last visit he fully re-regulated the action. He removed it completely and he worked on it for a good couple of hours. I'm happy to report that now the keys are much freer, much quicker, and my son reports that the piano is far easier to play and that he no longer has any of what he referred to as sticky keys. There remains, however, the question of whether this piano should really have arrived in this condition. Obviously, what I have is a sample set of one, so my experience is not necessarily reflective of everyone else's. However, I have read certain reports on piano forums of people experiencing similar problems. In my experience, I do feel as though quality control should be something that perhaps Kawai looks into and addresses. However, I should add that they have been very helpful in trying to solve the problems that we have experienced. In summary then, should you purchase a Kawai Novus NV5S hybrid piano? Well, if like me you simply do not have the space for a full acoustic instrument, and you simply must have an acoustic action, then the Kawai Novus NV5S and the Yamaha Avant-Garde NU1X remain your best option. However, do not expect a perfect instrument as it is described in many popular YouTube reviews. The Kawai NV5S is not a perfect substitute for an acoustic piano. However, if you set for yourself realistic expectations as to what you are going to receive, it certainly possesses the qualities that make it a worthwhile purchase in certain circumstances. Thanks for listening.